going on, everyone? So Doc Rivers is kind of in this loop right now between J.J. Reddick, Patrick Beverley, Doc Rivers' son, Austin Rivers. You see this like cycle of guys going at each other, and it all kind of stems around Doc Rivers' lack of turnaround for the Milwaukee Bucks. Right? Milwaukee fired Adrian Griffin in order to bring Doc Rivers in the hopes that Milwaukee kind of fix the issues that they've had. Milwaukee's been a mess kind of all season. I mean, they're winning games, like record-wise, they look pretty good. A lot of that is just Giannis is arguably the best player on the planet and has just been spectacular this year. But Damian Lillard hasn't been the same. He's missed a bunch of games also, so has Chris Middleton. And since Doc Rivers came in, the Milwaukee Bucks have been 3-7. And I have been very critical of Doc Rivers even before he was with the Bucks. If you're familiar with me and my channel, I have criticized Doc heavily because I don't believe he is the coach that he's perceived to be. I think he is a good coach. I think he's solid. If you want to win some regular season games, if you're not looking to win championships, Doc Rivers is probably your guy. Excellent player coach, guy that has always kind of had good relationships, has good relationships and perception around the league, but like what has he ever achieved? And J.J. Reddick has really went after him, and he said, the trend is always making excuses. The former Duke star said, "Doc, we get it. Taking over a team in the middle of the season is hard. It's always an excuse. It's always throwing your team under the bus. There's never accountability with that guy." I completely agree. Look, J.J. Reddick is very familiar with Doc Rivers. Doc Rivers was his coach. And you're seeing guys like Patrick Beverley and, of course, Austin Rivers come into his dad's defense. Austin tried to paint it as it wasn't. But if you listen to his rant, it made zero sense other than a kid that's trying to stick up and defend his dad. Patrick Beverley, again, didn't make any sense, saying that he made his career. J.J. Reddick was an excellent player before the Clippers. He had options in other places. He went to an NBA Finals with another team. So it's silliness to me. But nonetheless, I agree with J.J. Reddick, right? Doc Rivers doesn't have this bad taste now with the Milwaukee Bucks because of nothing. Austin Rivers as well as Patrick Beverley, both are just completely pretending like Doc Rivers' history doesn't exist. This guy hasn't been fired and replaced everywhere he's been because of lack of success with the teams. And he's had some very talented, very competitive teams. I mean, that Clippers team, the Lob City team, was arguably the best team in the league for 7 years. There was a huge stretch where they were incredible, and they couldn't get out of the second round. Doc Rivers is going to go down as one of the most underachieving head coaches in NBA history. He has more 3-1 blown leads than any coach in NBA history. Right? Again, he's got a great reputation. He has built this rapport with players, and he is very beloved. But for whatever reason, organizations think that that's going to lead, and we're the team that Doc Rivers is finally going to have success with. And every time they're disappointed, right? Doc Rivers was with the Sixers, and the Sixers couldn't get rid of him sooner. This guy had Joel Embiid, James Harden, right? This guy had Ben Simmons, had the old fiasco. And look, I'm not saying everything that he has dealt with over his tenure as a coach with these various teams are all his fault, but he acts in just at times and that's J.J. Reddick's whole point, is when do you take accountability? When do you look at your career and go, you know what, I need to be better? It's not like Doc Rivers is being heralded as this great inventive coach. When have you ever heard anybody be like, man, Doc Rivers, that's the guy you want as your head coach in a playoff series, right? Oh, Doc Rivers, he's one of the greatest coaches to ever coach the game of basketball. It's all you could rank 100 coaches that are better. There are coaches that don't have the reputation that he has, that has had more success than this man has. This guy just keeps getting the top teams in the league with the top talent in the league. And every year, this guy is a second round exit at best. Every time. And yet, teams just keep giving this guy another chance, And like JJ Reddick said, there's no accountability. It's always the player's fault. It's always the team's fault. And look, I am somebody that has been heavily on, hey, let's defend the coach and criticize the players. Right? If you're familiar with me, you know I'm a Laker fan. And there have been stretches, not so much anymore because Darvin Ham has been terrible, but there were stretches where I was heavily defending Darvin Ham, and to an extent, I still do. Because again, not everything falls on the coach. Not everything is the coach's fault. Right? Players still have to play the game. Players still have to show up. It doesn't matter how good of a coach you are. Be the best coach in history. But if the players don't do their job and don't show up and play the game the right way or the way that you've laid out for them, then it doesn't matter. Right? So not everything falls on the coach. But we have enough history and sample size with Doc Rivers to show he's not that guy. He's not the X's and O's guy. He's not a championship level coach. And many of you are going to say, hey, Tyler, Doc Rivers won a championship. Yeah, he won one championship with the team that I could have coached because that team didn't need a coach. That team was ridiculously stacked. I mean, you're talking about the addition of Kevin Garnett, Ray Allen, they had Rajon Rondo, right? And that's not counting all the other pieces they had a lot. Dude, Doc Rivers had one of the most stacked teams ever and still underachieved and only won one NBA championship with that team. One. They made it to the finals twice, don't get me wrong, but still, the only time Doc Rivers has ever gone beyond the second round is with the team that was so insanely stacked that had 4 Hall of Famers basically in their prime or towards the tail end of their prime. Although, a lot of people like to argue that, Ray Allen wasn't prime with the Boston Celtics. Ray Allen wasn't the same guy he was, the previous years and blah, blah, blah. Dude, Ray Allen was still won his first year with Boston. He was only 32 years old, and he was coming off of a 26 point per game season. But so let's not pretend the last 3 years that Ray Allen was with Seattle that he wasn't averaging 25 and 26 points. And then when he went to Boston, it dropped to 17, 18, and 16. And he averaged around 16 and a half points per game with Boston. But that's because he went from Seattle, where he was the guy, to being one of the guys, right? So, people like to pretend Ray Allen was 36 at the time with Boston, and he wasn't coming off of a 26 point a game season the year prior, and still was averaging 18 as a third option on that Celtics team. That Celtics team was insane. That Celtics team was incredibly stacked. Doc Rivers won an NBA championship with that, which anybody should have won an NBA championship with that. That was at a time where there wasn't this big three thing. Right? This was before Miami, this was before all of that. And yet, beyond that one championship, with still a roster that was incredibly stacked, still had very disappointing seasons, still never won another championship. They got to the finals one other time. Doc Rivers he's not the guy. He just isn't. Right? And look, is he a solid? Again, I mentioned it earlier in the video. If you want to win a bunch of regular season games, Doc Rivers is the guy. Right? He's been a very good regular season head coach. But when he starts getting to the nitty-gritty of the postseason, he's the James Harden of postseason coaches, right? He's the guy that, if you're planning on winning a championship, don't count on it, because he's going to get out-coached by pretty much every team head coach that he faces. He's just not good with the X's and O's. He's not good at adjusting. He believes that the players should figure stuff out, and they're the guys that are out there playing the game, so go play the game. Right? This guy isn't a guy that's known to make big swings and big shifts and change things up on the fly, and he's not that guy. And he's never going to be that guy. He's been a head coach long enough. It's not like we're looking at like, oh man, he just had a bad Sixers tenure. No, the guy's coached a lot of talent. He's had multiple years where his team was one of, if not the best teams in the league. He's had situations to where he was well ahead of the other teams. 3-1 leads. And he's blown it. He's blown 3-1 leads at basically every place he's been at. And now what? He's just going to magically be this guy because he's on the Milwaukee Bucks? Like, I don't get it. I don't. And you see all these people trying to come to his aid and defend him. But, like, who are the guys that are defending him? Patrick Beverley, who's been a journeyman, who has done what? He's done more talking than he's done winning. He was on, and this is coming from a guy that is very familiar with him because he was on the Lakers. And you know what he was with the Lakers? The worst offensive player in the league. That's not an opinion. That is a statistical fact. When he was with the Lakers, he was the worst offensive player in the league. I respect Patrick Beverley, his grind, his hustle, him working hard, being a guy that made it to the league, defied all odds. That's great. But let's take him for what he is. He's a role guy who's at the end of his career that's getting tossed around and getting passed around like what he is a role guy. He's a guy that is no longer valued. And he's talking about Doc Rivers and coming to Doc Rivers' aid. I understand he likes Doc Rivers and he's a fan of Doc Rivers, but dude, if you had any other coach, you might have won a championship with the Clippers. Like Doc Rivers blew it numerous times. And then, of course, Austin Rivers, daddy, you gotta stick up for your dad. I ain't mad at him for that. I'm not going to criticize the man for sticking up for his father. So, go ahead, stick up for your dad. But let's take it for what it is. It's a man sticking up for his dad. No? Great. Patrick Beverley, how come none of these other guys come to his aid? Where are all the stars that he's had over the years? How come they're not coming out and going, no, Doc's a great coach. Doc is this, Doc is that. Whenever you hear these guys, they're just like in passing. He's like, yeah, he's a great guy. I liked him. I enjoyed my time with him. It's all like the generic answers. No one's running to stick up for Doc Rivers and his coaching abilities. No one's out here going, man, he's the best coach we've ever had. He really led us to great things. No. So, anyway, as always, this is a discussion, though. I pass the question on to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? What are your thoughts on Doc Rivers? Again, it's just, look, J.J. Reddick's right. And, again, J.J. Reddick is a guy that is familiar with him. J.J. Reddick is a guy that was coached by him. And Doc Rivers is like, I don't understand why they fired Adrian Griffin. Yeah, I don't really get it either because they didn't upgrade, in my opinion. But, anyway, let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. Helps me to do these types of videos. Truly appreciate it. Not subscribe to the channel. Hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.